Hello, I'm Carolyn, Marketing and Communications Manager at Resource Futures. I'm joined today by Jane Stephenson, Chair of Resource Futures, Katie Powell, Consultant at Resource Futures, and Sarah Hargreaves, Senior Consultant at Resource Futures. We've come together to talk about food waste, the Bristol Going for Gold initiative, and what's next for the food waste movement in Bristol. Coming to you first, Jane, can you give us a brief history of Bristol's food waste movement?
Yes, of course. So in 2006, Bristol was the first city to introduce separate food waste collections for recycling, combined with smaller bin sizes. And then in 2007, Fair Share Southwest was set up as an outpost from the National Fair Share Group. And in 2009, Wessex Water set up a subsidiary, Genico, to process food waste that had been collected, turning it into soil improver and biogas.
And Jane, you identified the need for collaboration very early on. Why is collaboration key in food waste reduction?
Well, I believe that collaboration is important in whatever you're trying to do, but in particular to do with food waste. Most local authority campaigns focus on the household waste element, and food waste, of course, is generated by all other key players. So from the universities, schools, and the many businesses. And we also need to find ways of engaging with those sectors too. The Going for Gold campaign also didn't just want to focus on food waste recycling, it wanted to reduce food waste in the first place. And it was important in that context to engage with community groups and particularly the food redistribution charities such as Fair Share. The collaboration efforts were made a lot easier in Bristol because we already had the Bristol Green Capital Partnership, which brings together public, private and third sector organisations working on sustainability issues. So that was a very good starting point for us.
And you also introduced food waste as a focus for Resource Futures. Can you tell us about Resource Futures' expertise in the area?
Yes, indeed. I'm going to touch on some of the nationally significant bits of work that we've done. So in 2012, we did a national study looking at food waste behaviours and also the amount of food waste that was in residual bins through our composition studies. And this helped to inform national campaign work and the introduction of separate food waste collections more widely. The Environment Bill, which has recently been through Parliament, will make mandatory separate food waste collections from 2023. We've also done a lot of work with communities, so work with education and schools, focusing on zero waste lunches and composting, and supporting local communities to set up larders and surplus food cafes in our projects in Devon. In addition, we focused on developing a pack called Save More, which is aimed at individuals who are wanting to save money as well as reduce food waste.
Thank you, Jane. Katie, can you give us a quick summary of the Bristol Going for Gold initiative?
Yeah, of course. So as simply as possible, Going for Gold was the overarching campaign to achieve Gold's sustainable food city status for Bristol. We worked across 6 main areas in the campaign, including 2 areas of excellence, one of which being food waste that we worked on.
And in the food waste area of excellence, you had ambitions for waste from households and businesses, as well as for food redistribution. But can you tell us a bit about how you specifically worked with businesses?
Yeah, of course. So it was really important to us to make sure that we worked with both food and non-food businesses to understand and tackle their food waste. But that is quite a challenge for lots of reasons. Non-food businesses often don't see food waste as important or relevant, even if they're undertaking environmental reporting. And food businesses often don't record their food waste. we were really fortunate that Geneco were heavily involved in the campaign, and as they process much of the city's food waste, including that collected by other commercial waste collectors, they were able to provide us with kind of a central data source. Without that, I think we would have had real difficulty understanding changes in Bristol's commercial food waste. And it'll actually be really interesting to see the results of a consultation that DEFRA has had out recently about mandatory food waste reporting for food businesses.
The initiative excelled in its ability to pivot to Bristol's changing needs in light of the pandemic. How did you adjust to achieve? Yeah, so I think for both individuals and businesses, we had to really ensure that we were being sensitive to people's concerns. Obviously, we knew immediately that we wouldn't be able to continue to ask people to pledge to take action through so much upheaval. And we understood that the pressures on businesses were just huge, and the context in which they were working had changed completely. So we focused more on kind of supporting than pushing for change. And one of the first things we did was initiate the Bristol Food Kind campaign, which was all about how we could all be kind to ourselves, our communities and the environment through our relationship with food. Thank you, Katie. And Sarah, going back to collaboration being the key, what was achieved through collaborative efforts and how did it work?
As Jane mentioned earlier, Bristol had made some really early starts in progressing the food waste journey. And so having broken a lot of ground very early, we knew that moving the agenda forwards would require a really collaborative approach to achieve more innovation. The quick wins had already been done. So we set up a food waste action group to help achieve this. This was bringing together all the key players in the food networks in Bristol to build that conversation. So the council were involved, which was a really useful starting point. We also had the local processing plant, Geneco, the key waste collection company, Bristol Waste Company, and others, including the redistribution network, business networks, the universities and the health sector. So all the key people who are really able to help us infiltrate the messages across the city. The Food Waste Action Group, or FWAG as it became known, enabled us to share data much more efficiently and collect those data points. We could bounce ideas off each other and join up, streamline the communications. So avoiding us all doing separate messages to different groups, but a more consistent message that allowed us to speak more clearly.
How will this collaboration continue?
Achieving the gold accreditation is a fantastic milestone, but obviously there's a huge amount more to be done. Having FWAG already in place now, along with, we also have a subgroup which is looking at building a more connected redistribution network. So getting all the organisations who are involved with redistribution, talking to each other and working together to really maximise what they can achieve in that area. These two groups are really going to help us build on the work that we've already achieved and continue to seek out innovative ways to address food waste across the city.
And what other commitments are needed for food waste reduction success?
There's always two aspects to tackling food waste, one being that installation of good recycling habits and getting people to put food into the right bins, but the other is how to reduce how much food is wasted in the first place. These can often be perceived as conflicting messages and can cause councils quite big headaches, especially when recycling targets are being chased. But we're really lucky in Bristol that Bristol Waste Company are already committed to minimising food waste and have some great plans in place that are looking to help residents understand how to reduce the food waste in the first place. And a recent one is bin digestion that's really highly received. Our local processing plant is also really on board here. They're operating at high capacity already, so they're really well placed to start helping their customers reduce their food waste generation and so make room to bring in new customers. So by helping existing customers reduce the food waste, move them up the food waste hierarchy, they can bring new customers in, which then gets them onto this journey to engage better with food. So for us now going forwards, we need to commit to really raising that awareness and increasing the accessibility of messages so that we continue to really bring the city along with us on this really exciting journey and build on the work we've achieved so far.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Jane and Katie too. If you'd like to find out more about Resource Futures' work with food waste, please visit our services page on our website at www.resourcefutures.co.uk. For more information on the Bristol Going for Gold initiative, visit www.goingforgoldbristol.co.uk.